What is a woman? Charlie baffled by her definition.
No, I hear that. I do want to actually get back to even more of a fundamental question, and I'm sorry I didn't ask this.
Sure.
What is a woman?
Oh.
A woman is somebody who presents as our social conception of womanhood.
So
acts in such a way.
So Pixie, just can you answer that question without using the word woman or womanhood?
It's because basically it would be a functional definition. So as a society, we have an understanding of what woman is.
What
It's
is
a
that?
man.
Yeah, that's basically.
I am a man.
Well done.
X,
Can you
y,
elaborate?
XY chromosomes.
Okay, but the problem with that is that I didn't check your chromosomes before coming in here and calling you a man, and you didn't check my chromosomes before coming in here.
Or genitals.
Or genitals, calling me a woman.
So let me just.
Already he's getting like just mocked. Like I like how everybody's just like chuckling like at how silly he's being. He's like, what's a woman? And Pixie was like, had such a solid definition ready to go. That was great.
Play this out. So first of all, you can't give me a definition without using the word woman.
That's a functional definition. Yeah, sure. Do you know what functional definitions are?
I'm very well aware, and you should have.
He has no idea what a functional definition is. He's lying. So womanhood defines our concept of woman. It is circular in that way because that's how that definition operates because it's socially constructed.
Functional definition for the most important question in civilization,
No.
right?
Well, the point of a functional definition.
What? Did he just say that was the most important question in civilization? I'm pretty sure I can think of a lot of other questions that are way more important than what is a woman.
Functional definitions are a definition that is by the function of something. So, like, for example,
No, there's an objective
1 equals
definition.
1.
Wait,
is like
oh my god, did he just say there's an objective definition? Dude, first he lied about knowing what a functional definition is, because as soon as he like hand waved and he's like, I'm well aware what a functional definition is, he probably just thinks it means a definition that functions well when you use it or something. He probably doesn't even know what she's actually referring to. And then he just said, this definition is objective. Definitions are not objective. It is impossible for definitions to be objective because they define our subjective perception of things, essentially. Not to mention, definitions change, and they have changed.
1 is a function of 1. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do. So
It's going right through Charlie Kirk. I can see the way he's like, yeah, He's like, just get back to the dialogue tree.
then can you give me an objective, a functional, utilitarian, any sort of biological definition of what a woman is? Because
Even our categorization of biological traits are subjective.
how can we debate feminism if we can't agree what a woman is?
I would
Well, if you're stupid, like, then maybe you can just sit out for this one, champ.
even like I feel like Pixie's definition absolutely satisfies the definition of what constitutes womanhood, but I would define it only slightly differently, which is that it's a person who performs a set of social roles that are typically associated with feminine characteristics, but not necessarily, because there are even cis women who fall outside of this, and we still consider them women nonetheless. Like butch lesbians, for example, are women that exhibit very masculine characteristics, but nonetheless society understands.
It's about the internal perception you have of yourself and the way that that internal perception corresponds with the external social construct of gender. So if we have a socially constructed gender spectrum, then that is influencing the way people are being raised. And as you're being raised, that is also forming an internal perception of yourself. If you are a man or if you're a boy, well, that means you pull from this external social construct of characteristics, traits, etc. So this is where I would distinguish this, and I think that my definition is better than the one that this girl with the glasses just gave, is it's an internal perception you have of yourself in relation to the external social construct. So it's more than just the behavior and the characteristics. It's ultimately that internal perception. So just like if someone hypothetically, if they are a woman, they would continue to be a woman, whether they're performing like sort of stereotypical behavior that we associate with womanhood, or if they aren't, because it's the internal perception that holds that weight.
Them to be women, so
I find cis to be a very offensive word, by the way. I don't know how you feel about the cis.
I
think it's hate speech, to be honest.
I didn't mean to trigger you, Brian. I would have given you a
cis-
trigger warning before if I had
So
known.
do you think anyone can become a woman?
Dude, what a f***ing bitch. This guy. I'm sorry, that's offensive. I'm really triggered. Ha ha ha. You're not funny, dude. You sound legitimately upset.
Yeah, but not anyone will.
Okay, so then at what point do they become a woman?
It will depend on where they are in their gender transition for the most part.
Does it require drugs to become a woman?
No.
Personally, I think it's a mindset. It's a spiritual energy. It's the vibe that you give off. You know, like
The vibe. Before we continue on, I want to just
So, Phoebe, no, you don't belong here. I'm sorry. I feel so sorry for that girl. She was just trying to like add a little bit of spark or whatever, and it was like everyone was just like, okay, that needs some canned laughter after that part, man.
it's a spiritual energy. It's the vibe that you give off. You know, like
the vibe. Before we continue on, I want to just give everyone an opportunity to answer Charlie. No, totally fine. To answer Charlie.
I'm sorry. It's just like the vibe you give off, man. Okay, well, what if other people don't pick up on that vibe? Does that mean then they can invalidate your gender identity? I didn't pick up on your vibe. I didn't really get that feminine energy vibe from you. Sorry. I guess I'm just not going to call you a woman now.
What is a woman? Starting with you, we'll go around the table. Go ahead.
Can you skip me?
We'll come back to her.
I am a woman.
So come back to you? Or?
Yeah, come back to me. Come back to me. Let me
Sure,
brainstorm
okay,
on
go
this.
ahead.
Same. I'm a woman.
What is a woman?
Like, I don't.
What about you? Can I have you tilt your mic down just
Yeah,
a
of
tad?
course.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'm a woman, but I also do think that a woman is someone who identifies as a woman, and that's that.
I mean, theoretically, it's someone who's born with a womb, but this generation obviously has proven that men can turn into women. So I'm not discluding that.
It's not, by the way, a woman is not defined as somebody who is born with a womb. There are actually women who are born without a uterus whatsoever. Are those people not women? That's what I would want to ask this person. Yeah, maybe it's kind of rare. Yeah, maybe it doesn't happen all the time, of course, but it happens enough so. I think it's like 1 in 5,000 women born without a uterus. That's decent enough that now your definition is excluding women. But all women who are women believe they are women. So they have an internal perception of themselves that is in line with or that at least is shaped by a social construct. It is not their adherence to that behavior, but rather the way that it shapes an internal sense of self.
I still think that they should be perceived as what they're portraying themselves as. But technically, I still think trans girls, they are a version of a man, but they can still be classed as a woman, which is a bit tricky, but yeah.
Molly?
I'll say the same answer. I think what constitutes as a woman is the energy that you give off and that you want to put out into the world.
So if being a woman or a female is a mindset, can your age also be a mindset? Can you choose to be, can you just say I feel 14, which is a classifiable.
So notice, by the way, that what Kirk did there is he chose the weakest response, which is definitely the mindset one, where you just make it sound, that's just the way that you think, haha. No, it's like, it's deeper than that. It's an internal sense of self. This is molded over time. This shapes how you view yourself. It's so much bigger than just like a mindset. Even more so, age is not something that is necessarily like shaped upon you in the same kind of way. Now, there are certain expectations associated with certain ages, perhaps we could argue, but age is a metric by which you measure time. Like, the way we measure time is, yes, still subjective, but just if it's subjective does not then mean that it is a social construct, or sorry, it's subjective and a social construct, but just if it is a social construct does not then mean that it can be an identity. There are many things that are socially constructed. I bring this up all the time. The fact that the value we place on money is socially constructed, because money by itself is actually just paper. There's nothing of value intrinsically on money. It is purely our social understanding that this thing has value. That doesn't mean that I can identify as $5. That's dumb. And everybody knows that. It's a bad faith question of his.
Mental condition, by the way, of in it.
So I I will say, yes, I know people that act way younger than they actually are, and they love acting way younger than they actually are. And I know people that, you know, like act way older than they are, and they, you know, and they pride themselves in that. And I think,
Okay.
Yes, but that doesn't make them the thing. Nor does behaving like a woman make you a woman. It's the internal sense of self when it comes to gender. But age is not an internal or a socially constructed form of identity. So even if there is a sense of self that is also shaped around how old you are and your age and whatnot, maybe, but a lot of that is socially constructed, at least once you get older. Of course, there are certain things, you know, kids cannot do, of course. But just if it's, again, subjective and socially constructed, doesn't mean that it can all just be identified with and identified as.
Fair enough. So if a 35-year-old man claims he's 14, should we have any problem if he wants to have sex with another 14-year-old?
no. I'm not saying
No.
that you should.
Probably should have a problem, I think.
No, I'm not
Well,
saying that
good
they
idea to have
should
a
be
problem.
able to have, but
But
they
who's
can
to say he's
state,
not
I
14?
feel 14.
Yeah, okay, God, this girl's backtracking hardcore now. They can say it. They're allowed to say it. No one's arguing whether or not you're allowed to say it. With gender, because it is a socially constructed form of identity, that means that if you have that internal sense of self and you identify that way, that you are that thing. Just like being a Christian, my favorite example of them all. Being a Christian. What does it mean to be a Christian? Some people say you need to be baptized. Other people say you just need to believe in Jesus Christ. What is it? Well, it's kind of subjective. But you know what? That is going to shape a sense of a Christian, at least, a sense of themselves and the way that they view themselves within Christianity. Many denominations preach that it's just the belief in Jesus Christ that is going to ultimately save you. So that's actually a mindset. So all it takes is a mindset, even for a Christian, to just be a Christian. And Kirk would accept that. If someone said, well, I believe it, I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that I'm a sinner, and now I believe that God saved me. These are all things you believe about yourself. And Charlie Kirk would 110% respect that. How is that not a form of identity just the same? When it comes to age, saying I identify as 35 doesn't make you 35. Saying I identify as 14 does not make you 14, the way as I identify this way because it is a socially constructed form of identity does. The way that this mindset, I believe this thing about myself, makes me a Christian, can make you a Christian. Just believing you're 14 doesn't actually mean you're 14, because that is based on our classification of time.
But if your identity is an energy or a feeling that can change, why would it be wrong for a 35-year-old to say he's 14? Therefore,
Because he's not.
People's identities change all the time. They grow, they change, they morph. Like, you weren't a dad, now you have a child, now you are a dad. Your identity just changed.
But then how is someone who has male parts a woman if he's not a woman?
That's two different
It's
things.
Why is
Because you're comparing biology to a socially constructed form of gender, to our understanding of gender, and to a collection of behaviors, traits, etc. That's why. Because you don't determine who is and is not a woman based on their biology, Kirk. You don't. I mean, maybe you do because you're creepy, but generally you're not supposed to.
Because you
It's
can't
a
go
mindset,
back
isn't
in
it?
time.
Your age isn't a mindset. I
Well,
mean,
but then why is your sex or your
He's actually like they're almost wrecking him without even meaning to. Where they're like, your age isn't a mindset. Like, it's what? Like, there's difference here. One thing is an identity and one is not. That's what they're trying to say, and they're just kind of failing to articulate it.